Hello everyone and welcome to the Valorant in-depth series, and today we're going to be talking about communication. Make sure you leave suggestions and vote for suggestions in the comments because whichever ones you guys like the most will be the upcoming videos. Now I know most of us, like myself, primarily solo queue, and you can't always choose your teammates, but you can always choose how you interact with them. So hopefully this is going to help those interactions go a little smoother and help you actually get some team communication going on in those solo games. The reason communication is so important is because each round should be viewed like a puzzle. And in your head, you should be piecing this puzzle together to have a mental map of where each enemy is and what utility they have left. This lets you pick out the weak points in their defense and predict their rotation path. First things first, if you don't have a microphone, it's 2020, just get a microphone. And whenever you do have a microphone, don't be afraid to use it. Now you're going to come across some sucky people in this game, and if someone's a jerk and annoying you, just mute them. It's best to just mute someone and be yourself than to be insecure about something and try to justify yourself. It's their loss if they want to be that way, just ignore them and mute them. Now in this video, I'm not going to be talking about strats or being the in-game leader. That'll be in an upcoming in-depth video. In this video, I'm simply talking about enemy movement, position, utility usage, what the enemy sees, and all of that useful stuff. For instance, the enemy team doesn't have a Cypher, and you notice that Sage slowed off A long on Haven. This means the enemy team doesn't have any hard site denial, and getting a pick on a different site means you can safely rush that site. You should try to be as brief as possible. Don't stumble around your words or try to tell a story. Just use as few words as possible to get the point across. If you're unsure of what to say, stick with the amount of enemies that you saw and the location that you saw them in. You should also make sure to use callouts that are common and that people will understand. This doesn't mean you have to memorize every callout for every spot, just be quickly descriptive. Like this cubby right here by Belong, for example, on Bind. So this is cubby. This is what people refer to as cubby. I've never actually heard an actual call out for this, and I have no idea what the call out would be. But if I, see somebody here and I say the cubby by Belong, everyone in the game is going to know what I'm talking about. There's nothing else that they could possibly be like. You could say B main, I guess, would be there. But the cubby by Belong, it makes sense. Just say whatever comes to your mind that would reasonably make sense. Be descriptive. Next, only give information that you're 100% sure of. It's better to say nothing than to give wrong information and bait your team into a bad rotation when they could have played it better. Call it like you see it. If you hear footsteps mid, just say footsteps mid. If you see 3 people on B, say 3 people on B. Don't start screaming, their garage, rotate, rotate, rotate. This just incites panic from your team and can push them into the enemy lurker, which basically ruins the round for you. Only call out what you know. Don't make inferences. It's likely that your team, if you give them the information that you know, can come up with the same assumption as you, or use the extra information that they gathered to actually make them make a better assumption than you actually could have. After you die, just call out what you know and stop talking, because it's up to your teammates now. Don't start telling a story about what the enemies could be doing. Obviously, if your teammate misses something obvious, you can make a quick comment to correct them, but let them play. I know how badly it's going to make you cringe when you see him running to flank instead of actually walking and he's making noise, but shh, just let him play. If you have something you desperately want to say, but you don't feel like saying it out loud and interrupting his focus, feel free to use the chat box instead. That way they can still see it and use the information if they need it. If you expect something from your teammates, or your teammates expect something from you, tell them. If you're entry fragging garage, say, follow and trade me if I die. If you're following them, say, entry and let me trade. This also goes along with utility usage, so if you're going to flash into hookah, tell them you're flashing hookah. If you're smoking heaven, say you're smoking heaven. That way your team knows what to expect whenever they're actually executing the site. Most importantly, when you can't do your job, tell your teammates. When you're holding down a site or preventing a retake and you get smoked off, that's an angle your teammates were expecting to be safe or expecting crossfire from. So when you get smoked off and you can't do your job of holding down that area, tell your team, I can't help, or they can come through short. Make sure that when your team is relying on you to do something that you can actually do it. And if you can't, tell them so they can play it appropriately. There's nothing worse than losing a bomb plant because the enemy comes from an area you thought was being covered because your teammate got smoked off or was going around for a long flank and didn't tell you that the enemy could be coming from somewhere. Just make sure you tell your team where they're vulnerable from if that's the place that you were most recently at. The long and short of it is this. Tell your team everything they could possibly use. Be clear, concise, and understandable in your communication. And be sure to be clear about your expectations and what your team expects of you. Make sure you vote for the upcoming videos in the comments down below. My Twitch is in the description as well if you want to check me out and see some of this stuff live. But as always, thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated. Have a good day and peace.
And I've been chilling, watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our cloudlands when people change. but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by